Welcome, everyone, to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling, and I've got two co-hosts with me tonight, and they're both from a long, long way from where I am in Eastern Canada. We have Steve from Rock and Metal Invasion. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Tim.
And, of course, from Rock Daydream Nation, Mr. Peter Kerr. Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Peter is fresh from vacation in Hawaii, so I do not feel bad that he's back to work.
Yeah, well, seems a long time ago. But anyway, good to be on the show.
Yeah.
Good to be invited on the show.
This is, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. On this show, we are each going to be counting down our top 10 Rainbow songs. Now, Rainbow's a band with not a terribly large catalog, but there are very distinct eras of Rainbow, and I'm really curious to hear where each of us are going to pull from. So I think what we're going to do, we'll start. Do either of you guys have honorable mentions? I guess I'll ask that first.
Oh, look, yeah, through the air, I could put a few honorable mentions. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have any myself. I just thought I'd see if you
Yeah.
did. So
Yeah, no, I'm probably happy not to bother. Yeah, like Peter said, there's probably quite a number of songs. You could say, "Oh, I like that song too." Just to make the top 10. But
Yeah. I could throw a couple at the end, just a couple of quick ones. So, yeah.
I did have a funny one. I did actually have a funny one. I was going to say, King of Dreams.
Me too. I was going to do that too.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
And for those that didn't catch it, we had an excellent gathering on Rock Daydream Nation discussing how Deep Purple, the Slaves and Masters album is, given that it's got those 3/5 of Rainbow in it. But yeah, just for a joke, I was going to put King of Dreams as an extra one. Yeah, that's funny. We were on the same wavelength there. So I think what we're going to do is we'll go clockwise from the way that I see you, gentlemen. So we're going to start with Peter. Peter, give us your number 10 Rainbow.
Okay, thanks, Tim. So Rainbow have done some really fantastic cover versions, and usually it's drawn from a particular songwriter, Russ Ballard. So you've got I Surrender, Magic, but the one I'm going to pick was on the Down to Earth album, and it was really their commercial breakthrough in the UK. This went number 6. It had a new singer, Graham Bonnet, replacing Ronnie James Dio, and I'm talking about Since You've Been Gone. This is a really great pop rock song, and Ritchie's guitar work actually services the song. It's got a great outro solo. It's a really, really catchy song, and you can understand why it was a huge radio hit in the UK. Even to this very day, it gets played. It was recently on a trailer for Grown Ups, the Adam Sandler movie. So I think it reached number 57 in the US charts. So this is the song, this album, Down to Earth with Graham Bonnet, and we'll talk more about it as we go through the top 10. Started to make some waves in America, start to get played on commercial radio and make a bit of an impact. But yeah, look, I think this is a really fantastic song where Ritchie's guitar playing doesn't overbear. It actually goes within the consigns of the song, where the song is king and he just plays within. Since You've Been Gone, that's my number 10 pick.
Awesome. Okay, Steve, your number 10.
Well, this is really bizarre because my number 10 is also Since You've Been Gone. So really bizarre. From the Down to Earth album, I think I first actually heard that song like on a compilation or something like that, because it was a little bit of a hit. It was on one of those compilation records that you get from time to time, and that was probably one of my first sort of times hearing Rainbow as well. But yeah, very catchy. So different to I think the vocalist obviously is quite different, but a great vocalist. Graham Bonnet is a great vocalist, just so different to Dio, of course. But he wanted, I think, he wanted to Ritchie really wanted to get some chart success, and I guess he probably felt maybe with Dio is a bit too epic, a little bit too maybe not. Even though he has a great voice, it's not gonna. He's not doing the kind of songs maybe it's going to get on radio. And yeah, so bring in a outside songwriter as well. And you know, I really like it. Really catchy song. And I'm sort of surprised actually that it wasn't more of a hit. I mean, people talk about it being a hit, but you know that it wasn't even a little bit more of a hit, really. But yeah, no, really catchy. Spoiler though, it's not the only Russ Ballard song on my top 10. So another one coming up.
Well, I'm going to deviate for now anyway. I'm going to go to actually an album that I've only heard in recent months because I was aware of this album when it came out. I never ever saw it in a store, and I kind of forgot about it. And it's 1995's "Stranger in Us All," the very final Rainbow studio album that just kind of came out of nowhere. You know, Ritchie assembling another Rainbow lineup. And I'm going with the first track, "Wolf to the Moon." I think this is a really, really catchy song. I think Doogie White is a great vocalist. I think he sits right in between Ronnie James Dio and Joelyn Turner. I think he could, you know, obviously handle any of those eras of songs. And I almost went with "Stand and Fight" from this album, but I really like that opener, "Wolf to the Moon." To me, that's a classic Blackmore riff, it's classic sounding Rainbow. And yeah, I kind of am glad that they did that one more album. I'm just sorry that I was so late getting to it.
Yeah, well, it's not one of my favorite albums, and maybe there's another show idea, so I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I think the thing that I don't like about the album is the production. It's very clinical, very dry. It doesn't have that warm analog feel. And I guess because there's a considerable space and time between the last album, which was 1983, and this album, technology had moved into the Uber technology, didn't it, Tim? Where, you know, you've got Click Tracks, Pro Tools, everything's like very compressed. Yeah, I think it's the sonics that really kind of kill it for me. But look, I'm glad that he just wielded out the Rainbow emblem for one final tour at that particular time. And Doogie is a great singer.
Yeah, and he's gone on to do a lot of different things too. I just figured if we're going to do, you know, our top 10 favorite Rainbow songs, I'd better hear them all.
Absolutely. And I did the same.
Right. I mean,
I did the same.
A 12-year gap between albums, it's going to sound way, way different than the last time, you know, previously on if it was a TV show previously on Rainbow, it's not going to pick up right up where it left off.
And my favorite Doogie trivia is, do you know he was a roadie for Whitesnake?
No, but that sounds like something that would be true because it's just random enough to be true.
I think that's great. From roadie for Whitesnake to, you know, lead singer for Rainbow. I think that's a great story. Love to interview him one day.
Yeah, really.
He sounds like a really nice guy.
Okay, so Peter, let's go with your number 9 Rainbow track.
I am going to pick "Jealous Lover." So this was released as an EP in 1981, and I was recently on the Grab a Stack of Rock with Mike Ladano, and the show was basically our favorite B-sides or bonus tracks that never made it to the album. And I'm scratching my head why "Jealous Lover" never made it to Difficult to Cure, because I think it's a really great track. I think Joelyn Turner's never got his dues. He's a very smooth singer. He's in that Lou Gramm sort of vein. He's got that really rich tonality, but maybe a little bit of Paul Rodgers. A lot of people disagree. And he certainly, in the looks department, brought the women in. Therefore, bigger box office for Rainbow in the 80s. They started to get played on radio, and they started to attract a bit more of a broader audience than the denim patches and battle jackets of the, you know, the Dungeons and Dragons era of Rainbow. But this song, it's punchy, it's got a great riff, and it's a real head scratch why it didn't make the Difficult to Cure album. And it's my number 9. It's the best B-side or best off track that Rainbow ever did, in my opinion.
All right. So Steve, that's your number 9 too? No.
I tell you what, actually though, it would have been an honorable mention. I did sort of have that as sort of one of my sort of was a contender. Yeah, definitely. It's a really strong track that for whatever reason didn't make the album. Maybe they just really wanted to have a good. Sometimes I feel like some bands, they leave some good songs off because they want to, like, I don't know, they want to really make it seem like they've got so many great songs. Like even this one didn't make the album, But I don't know. But yeah, it's a good song. No, it's not. Number 9, I'm going to go with Street of Dreams from Bend Out of Shape. It's actually my favorite Joe Lynn Turner Rainbow album. Yeah, I just, again, you're probably fine with my top 10. It is actually a lot of sort of, and this is not intentional, just the way it turned out. Probably it's a lot of singles or a lot of potential hit songs. They're just the ones that I like. And I just think this one, yeah, it's getting a little bit like, the Joe Lynn Turner Rainbow gets compared to Foreigner a little bit. It's got a bit of a Foreigner sort of vibe, and you kind of think, well, Foreigner were having hits with songs very similar to this, but yeah, it's just a really good song, and yeah, it's my number 9.
Great song that it barely didn't make my list, but yeah, it's a fantastic song. And why it peaked at number 60 in the US, I have no idea. I know that MTV didn't play the video because of the hypnosis aspect of it. When I say literal hypnosis, not the album design company.
Yeah, ridiculous. Hey, I'll ask a random question to you, Tim and Steve. Could you imagine Lou Gramm singing this song?
Yeah, totally.
I could. I think that Joe Lynn Turner's always reminded me of sort of like a supercharged Lou Gramm, and Lou Gramm is like a supercharged Paul Rogers.
Yeah.
So, it's just that these are the singers that open their mouth and they've just got so much soul. All very different from each other, but yeah, I as you'll see, I'm a big fan of the JLT era. Yeah, and you know what? My list isn't terribly deep either. These are just songs that I really like. I am going to go classic on this next one on my number 9. It's generally considered one of the greatest metal albums of the 70s, Rainbow Rising. And I'm going to go with Starstruck. I just think that's such a cool song. And it's heavy, and it does have, it's very Dio in its approach and lyrically, but I also think it's hooky and catchy. So in another, it could have been, there's no reason why it couldn't have been a hit because it is catchy. It's memorable. It's got a memorable riff, and, the little production tricks, she's hooked. One, look, like those sort of things. It just gets in my head and stays there. And that's always been a favorite of mine. So yeah, that's my number 9 is Starstruck.
Is it in your head now, Tim?
Oh, it sure is. Yeah.
Well, that's my next pick too. So there you go. I picked number 8, Starstruck Rainbow. Yeah, my favorite hard rock album of all time. I love the album. Interesting story about Starstruck. It was actually Ritchie was stalked by a lady, and she would just appear backstage to all these gigs. And Ritchie suggested that Ronnie, for a little bit of variation in his lyric writing, he write a song about her. And this is the tribute to this Ritchie stalker that would appear at all hours of the night or backstage while they were on tour. But I always relate this as like Rainbow's answer to Strange Kind of Woman, because it's got that kind of swing to it. It's not like Four on the Floor, but it's got a bit of a groove, bit of a swing to it. And I agree with you, Tim. This could have been a breakout radio hit in the mid-70s. I love it. I think it's a great song. One of many great songs on that album, Starstruck, number 8.
Steve, you're number 8.
All right, well, number 8, I'm going to go with from Straight Between the Eyes, the opening track, Death Alley Driver. So I just love the song matches the song title. It's a driving song, really fast. Really just kick-ass song. I just think it would have been nice. I think Rainbow did a few more like this. Just a great way to kick off the album. And I love the music video too. It's a bit dated, but it's fun, and I think it's just a great way to kick off that album. And yeah, one of the heavier songs, that JLT did in Rainbow. So yeah, that's going to be my number 8. Yeah.
This is interesting. I wonder if this is going to happen many more times because Death Alley Driver is my number 8 from my favorite. This is actually my favorite Rainbow album, Straight Between the Eyes. And of course, I have to show this off, right? And I do like the video. I like the video. If I recall correctly, there's a kid playing a video game, like a racing game, while the band is. And I didn't know there was a video for that till just a few years ago. But yeah, to me, it's like the Joe Lynn Turner version of Highway Star. It's the fast driving tune. Yeah, great way to start a fantastic album. That's my number 8 as well.
Well, number 7, and I'm afraid it's copycat time because my number 7 is Death Alley Driver. I really dig that song. Straight Between the Eyes is my favorite JLT album. That was probably their commercial peak. They were on a co-headlining tour with Scorpions and selling out Madison Square Garden. So there were certain patches of America where they were a huge draw card, and it started to look like they were going to really make it. I agree with you 100%, Tim. It's like Highway Star. It's got all those Baroque classical flashes. And I think this is a really crack band. They had a great keyboardist in David Rothenfall. Bobby Rondelli, I like his drumming. I really think they had it together. And, with this song and Stone Cold, there's a lot of strong tracks on this album. But Death Alley Driver is my number 7. Love it.
Well, now we know none of us are going to have Death Alley Driver.
Yeah.
So Steve, you're number 7.
Number 7, yeah. So I'm going to go with this is my first Dio one, which is a bit surprising, but Rainbow Rising, classic album, and I'm going to go with Tarot Woman, another opening track. So opening track from the album. What I really actually like about this song. And I'm not always a fan of this, but the opening sort of keyboard synthesizer part that's played really sets the scene. And then it's quite an epic song, Dio just, on all the Rainbow albums, of course, he sounds fantastic, but he's just, on this song in particular, he just really emotive. Just, you really believe what he's saying and what he's singing. And it's just a really epic way to kick off the album. So, that's my number 7. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great opening song. So for my number 7, I'm going to go with a song that hasn't been mentioned yet. Another song that should have been a huge hit from Bent Out of Shape. I'm going to go with Can't Let You Go. Man, I love the little classical intro, but when that kicks in, again, I get major Foreigner vibes when that comes down, da 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 da. Like that to me, I could just picture Mick Jones on stage playing that. But great song. Should have been a hit. Joe Lynn Turner, it's hard for him to open his mouth and not sound, pretty good. And to my humble opinion, he sings on the only Yngwie Malmsteen album worth having, which is Odyssey. So
I agree. I agree.
That was, there's a good reason that was Yngwie's biggest album in America. It was his best one. But anyway, my number 7, Can't Let You Go.
Yeah. The thing that annoys me about that Yngwie Malmsteen, I've got the Live in Leningrad video, and I don't know if you guys have got it, but there's no footage of Joe Lynn Turner. The camera is just on Yngwie the whole way. It's just so egocentric. And,
that guy's his own worst enemy. He could have been a star if he'd have shared a little bit of that spotlight.
Absolutely. And I bought the video, and it's just, you don't even see Joe Lynn Turner. He's like at the side of the video. It's just complete egocentric. All right, my number 6 is Desperate Heart. I love this track, and it's got a real Edge of 17 Stevie Nicks feel with that really fast picking. It's got a lot of urgency, and this is another song that could have been a major hit. A lot of people seem to forget. They think, it's the Foreigner, and it's got the Joe Lynn Turner. It's a little bit maybe AOR, but there's a lot of rock crunch on Rainbow in the JLT era and Bent Out of Shape. And this one is kind of pop metal, but there's still a little bit of crunch. Again, just repeating myself, the thing that really hooks me in is that Edge of 17, fast-paced picking. It's really dramatic. So Desperate Heart is my number 6 pick of Bent Out of Shape.
Great choice. Steve, you're number 6.
Yeah, number 6. I'm going back to the Down to Earth album, and it's another opening track, All Night Long. So this was another single as well. Really rocking song. Yeah, Graham Bonnet sounds fantastic. I mean, Rainbow always had great vocalists, no doubt about it. And yeah, he sounds awesome. Music video is cool, and yeah, it's just a good rocking song, really catchy. Like that, and that's the thing too. A lot of these songs, you say the song title, you just start talking about it and you can hear it in your head straight away. It's not like, oh, how did that song go? It's like, I know that chorus straight away. So that chorus is in particular really catchy chorus. Yeah, good rocking song. And yeah, so that's my number 6.
That was a big hit, wasn't it? That was
Yeah,
another big hit. I think that even charted better. I think that even went top 5 in the UK.
Yeah. It's number 4, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite something. So I'm going to mention my number 6 is a song that's already been mentioned, and I'm going to hold this album up with really bad reprinting of the cover because it's really washed out. But other than the EP, the first time it appeared was on this final vinyl, and I'm talking about "Jealous Lover." Now, I actually don't have anything from Difficult to Cure on here. Now, I think there's some good songs on there, but I think Jealous Heart's better than anything on Difficult to Cure.
I agree.
I don't know in what order. I don't know if they had the album sequenced ready to go, but they were still writing songs, and it was too good to sit on and wait for the next album. Maybe they should have waited and put it on Straight Between the Eyes, but I think it's a great song. So yeah, I'm putting Jealous Lover as my number 6.
Yeah, and I love the album cover for the final vinyl where he's just sitting back at the end of the show. I think it's one of the better Rainbow covers. I love that. All right, I'm going to go into the classic era of Dio and a track off Long Live Rock and Roll and Kill the King. This is a stonker of a track. If you guys have seen the 1978 concert in Munich, where they've got the lineup, which includes David Stone and Bob Daisley, this is the opener. And it's just completely phonetic. You've got the great Cozy Powell on the double kick drums just rumbling along. Dio singing with so much passion. And it's just an outstanding track. And Ritchie's just going for it on the guitar. He's just, the fretboard pyrotechnics are just amazing. I love Kill the King. I think it's one of the essential songs in their song list in the classic era, and that's my number 5.
All right. Top 5 time. So yeah, you're number 5, Steve.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with this. Probably going to surprise some people, but from Difficult to Cure, I'm going to go with I Surrender. So this is another Russ Ballard song. It's interesting because basically, I guess they felt like it did pretty well the previous time, so they pretty much did exactly the same thing. They got another Russ Ballard song, released it as a single, almost too much, right? Like, why would you copy exactly the same? And it's similar kind of song in a sense. It's quite commercial, very melodic, but still rocks. And I know a lot of people would say, yeah, Since You've Been Gone is pretty good. They're not so necessarily so keen. I've heard people say, I don't really like I Surrender so much. But for me, it's the opposite. I actually prefer this one of the two. I mean, I like Since You've Been Gone as well. But yeah, this is actually my preference. Yeah, I think it's a really good song. It's another one of those Rainbow songs. I think I heard on a compilation first. I was a little bit late getting to Rainbow, so I was going, catching up as much as I could later on. But yeah, basically it would have been, again, I think a compilation when I heard it first. But it's that's my number 5.
Awesome. It's a catchy song, and I actually saw Blackmore, the last version of Rainbow with Romero at the O2, and they wheeled out Russ Ballard, and he was co-singing and playing guitar with Ritchie, which was a nice little touch at the O2 when they did that last run. So that was really good.
It's funny because I like the songs that he's written for Rainbow, and so I thought, well, maybe I'll like his albums, but there's nothing really. I mean, they're okay, but yeah, it's a bit funny.
Isn't that really strange? Like, his versions of the Rainbow songs are nowhere near as good. Yeah.
Sometimes
Oh,
it's the interpretations of them, right? Because I mean,
Mm.
I love I mean, I like New York Groove, you know,
Yeah,
Ace
yeah,
Frehley's version of that. I love Into the Night
yeah.
from the first Frehley's Comet album. That's a great
yeah.
song. I like I
Mm,
Did It for Love by Night Ranger. That's a Russ Ballard song.
mm,
But yeah, he seemed like he had greater success as a songwriter
mm.
He's like a
than
Desmond Child, wouldn't you say, Tim?
a little
He'd be
bit.
a
Yeah,
Desmond
yeah,
Child. Yeah.
yeah. Desmond Child put an album on it, didn't do anything,
Mm,
but yeah,
mm,
everybody wants to do his songs or collaborate with
mm,
him. So,
mm.
Yeah.
my number five, I'm gonna go Down to Earth album. I think that this album cover would have looked better if they used the classic logo. I understand that. I think Ritchie was trying to differentiate from the previous, but I've said this many times. You don't change your logo. Your logo is your brand. But anyway, and I'm going to go with the last song on here, "Lost in Hollywood." I think this is a really cool. It's fast. It's some great drumming from Cozy Powell. And I recently saw a concert with Graham Bonnet, and he's like 77, 78, and he
Mm.
still sings really. You see this frail man walk on stage, and he opens his mouth, and he sounds really good. I don't know how he does it. He must take care of himself. He's not moving around a lot, but he's singing really well. But yeah, "Lost in Hollywood" is my number five.
Great pick. I'm actually, you might as well put up the album again, Tim.
Oh yeah,
I've picked off the album Down to
yeah. Let's
Earth.
change it up. I'll hold the CD.
Yeah, fantastic. Eyes of the World. I love this. This is
That
their
was the first track
pseudo.
that he did on that concert. That was his opening track.
Yeah, this is his pseudo classical, neoclassical song. And it starts off with the Devil's Chords. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Triton, the Devil's Chords that thou shall not play.
Yeah.
Listen to Black Sabbath. And it's just got some of the most fantastic Ritchie Blackmore playing. There's slide guitar. If you put on the headphones, it goes from one speaker to the other. He's putting all these tricks out, and it's got a very compelling lyric. And Graham Bonnet is just what we call in Australia, he's a belter. He's like a Jimmy Barnes. He just opens his mouth out and just projects. I saw him with Alcatraz. They came to Australia. There was only 100 in the audience, but he just sang to the back of the room, and he just opens his mouth. And he's a great singer. He's a belter. But yeah, Eyes of the World. I think
Is that the one?
That's
the one the song stops up and Ritchie just goes into the solo.
Yeah,
is that the one?
And it's
that's great.
And as Martin Popoff says, he uses the Egypto chord progressions. It's very sort of Kashmir, you know?
Very much so. And you get the feeling that, you know, that's a song he might have written in the Dio years. Dio would have taken a different lyrical approach, but yeah,
absolutely.
Good choice.
And Martin Popoff, just a quick shout off, he rates that album as his favorite Rainbow of all time.
He loves that.
He loves it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and "Lost in Hollywood," he loves that song too. Yeah. So number four, we're up to? Yeah, number four. So I'm going to go with back to "Bent Out of Shape," and it's another opening track from the album. I'm going to go with "Stranded." This is such a great rocker. I just love the urgency of this song. Really, just really rocks hard. Great riff through plays on this song, and it's interesting too because if you listen to the Deep Purple song Anya, it's got kind of takes that riff and puts it in there a little bit. I think Ritchie sometimes would do that a little bit. If you sort of listen to some of his songs, it's like, oh, I think I've heard that riff a little bit. It sounds very similar to another one, but I'm not complaining though. But yeah, great song, and yeah, really great song to kick off the album.
Yeah, it's a great album. I even love the two instrumentals on that album. I think they're both really good too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so for my number four, I'm going all the way back to the debut, Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, and I'm going with the very first song, "Man on the Silver Mountain." I mean, again, I have heard this song on classic rock radio. I mean, this song, this could have been like a commercial, you know, well enough to get the Rainbow on some big tours. It's really weird. Like in North America, no gold records. Like none of those albums were certified, which is really strange, as well respected as they are, as big as Deep Purple were, as big as Whitesnake would become. The Rainbow stuff is just sort of like people like us know it. But yeah, number 4, Man on the Silver Mountain.
Yeah, a great pick. And I think some of those Rainbow albums are surely certified by now. If the bean counters at those record companies just want to make the effort and get it certified. Incidentally, with Man on the Silver Mountain, Eddie Van Halen in an early incarnation actually used to play that, and it's on some of their demo tapes. Eddie Van Halen's a huge Ritchie Blackmore fan, so I think it's on YouTube. Check it out.
You can find, yeah, it's a really, really raw, like bootleg recording. You can hear him doing Man on the Silver Mountain. I remember when Dio passed away, all of a sudden this popped up. I'm like, oh, I've never seen this before.
Yeah. All right. Going back to the classic era again of Long Live Rock and Roll, I'm going to pick Gates of Babylon. So this, to me, is like a sequel to Stargazer, where Ritchie even goes to the next level of Egypto chords and really fantastic the lead break takes it to a world that you just wouldn't expect. The band is just absolutely firing. And I guess when you're on a good thing, you stick to it. So they had so much success with Stargazer. Let's mine the Kashmir, the Egypto, the that sort of mystique type lyrics and take it a level further. And Dio's singing is just so compelling. And yeah, look, I'm a little bit sad they didn't kick on with it, but Ritchie wanted to be heard on radio. And that's why, this is their last album. So Gates of Babylon, number 3 for me.
Yep, that's a great song, Peter. That would have been an honorable mention as well. Yeah, really good one. So my number 3 is Man on the Silver Mountain. So interesting thing with this song. I mean, again, I talked about songs that Rainbow do that maybe sound like other songs Ritchie's composed. It's a little bit Smoke on the Water, a little bit. It reminds me of that a little bit. But great riff. And actually, my first time hearing that song was actually on the Dio intermission. So it's not Rainbow, obviously, but that was my first time hearing it again, because I'm a bit late to catching up on Rainbow until later on. So I'm listening to a lot of 80s hard rock, hair metal type stuff, and getting an album like this and saying, oh, hold on, it says here Rock and Roll Children has a medley of Long Live Rock and Roll and Man on the Silver Mountain. And I was like, at the time, I was like, they're not Dio songs. I didn't even know, much about Dio's history or anything like that. So, but I was like, oh, it's actually pretty good songs. This is on like some other album that I don't have or something, other Dio. Anyway, yeah, so that was actually my first time hearing it. But yeah, so it's for the time that it came out, that's a really heavy song, I think. And yeah, really good rocking song. So yeah, Man on the Silver Mountain's my number 3.
Nice.
So my number 3 is an album that's back again, Straight Between the Eyes. And I'm going with the first song on side 2, Power. I've always really, really liked this song. I think that it's catchy enough that it could, they had bigger singles on here, but I think this one was catchy enough. It could have been a single in its own right, but I just think it's a catchy, upbeat, anthemic song, and Joe sings it really well, and it's always been one of my favorites. So Power.
Yeah, look, I didn't even think of that song, but that's a nice pick. I like the rendition live. I don't know if you guys got the video Live Between the Eyes, Rainbow in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
And he's got backup singers, and it adds a little bit of soul to it. It's kind of like, it's not like a rock song, but with the backup singers, it adds a whole different dimension to it.
I think it's a smart move on Ritchie's part, because he continued to do that. Because, you had in a situation where nobody else in that band really sang. But yet in the studio, you'd have Joe doing his own harmonies and harmonizing with himself. You can't do that live unless you get some background singers. So
yeah, no, it adds a different dimension. It's good. All right. Just to be predictable, I'm going to do Man on the Silver Mountain as well. Mm-hmm. It's like the iconic Rainbow riff. Look, when I've gone to metal or hard rock shows, whether it's Motley Crue, Motorhead, whatnot, you know how they put a bit of a tape a sound tape with the engineers getting the mixing right, I never fail to hear this song. It always gets played before a show. So a lot of bands, whether they have the warm-up music, always put Man on the Silver Mountain. I agree with Steve. It's a variation on Smoke on the Water, but let's face it, Ritchie has recycled Smoke on the Water in a multitude of different songs, like Burn, for example.
Can't Happen Here uses that All Night Long.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's got a compelling lyric. It's about some prophet on the mountain, and it's got that real Lord of the Rings. And it really set the template for Rainbow off the Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow album in 75. But yeah, I love it. It's the iconic riff, Man on the Silver Mountain, my number 2.
Yeah. Cool. My number 2 is I've actually got a 45 here. Stone Cold, Rainbow, Stone Cold. Yeah, I just think I can't believe it wasn't more of a hit. Just really catchy. Love that song. Jolyn Turner sounds fantastic on it. There's a music video which I really like, but it's a little cheesy. Jolyn Turner's really kind of pouting to the camera quite a bit, as he's singing. But it's such a good song. Yeah. I tell you what, too, if you go and check out that music video, I don't know what it is that if you guys have seen it or not, but there's a lady, a model in it, and they've done like weird makeup on her. I think they're maybe trying to make her look like a mannequin or something, but you should check it out because she looks terrible, and I don't know what they were trying to do there, but it's a bit of a laugh to check out that music video, but yeah, great song. And yeah, that's my number 2, Stone Cold.
My favorite early 80s music videos are the ones that are funny, but unintentionally funny.
Yeah. Well, because, as well, too, like I didn't see it back in the day. Probably if I saw it, in 82, 83, when the music video came out, I was, oh, yeah, cool, whatever, But yeah, when you see it now, it's sort of, yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. Do you know the story behind the lyrics of that song?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Can I share it, or you want to?
No, go ahead, Peter. I think I know it. I think it's about Roger.
Yeah. So Roger, he came into the studio when they were laying down tracks, and he said, "My wife just left me, stone cold," and that was the genesis of the lyric and this song. So it's out of Roger's divorce or breakup with his wife.
So my number 2 is, it's already been mentioned, is Since You've Been Gone. Down to Earth. And the first time I heard this song was on, it used to be a syndicated radio show called Pirate Radio. It wasn't literal pirate radio, like it wasn't broadcasting from a ship, but that's what it was called. And they played hard rock and metal, and they'd have interviews. But every once in a while, they'd play older songs in between. And I heard that song one night, and I really liked it, but I didn't know who it was. I had no idea who it was. And, pre-internet, this was probably 1989, 1990. I kind of forgot about it. Then I went through a brief period where I got into Yngwie. And one of the things that I got was the Alcatraz live sentence album, the live album from Japan. And Since You've Been Gone's on there. And as soon as it came on, I'm like, oh, this song, I like this song. And that's when I started to put 2 and 2 together, that Graham Bonnet had been in Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. I didn't know a lot, but enough to know, okay, that's where that song comes from. So, yeah, I've always liked it. It's also recently been on Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is a pretty big, that's a pretty high profile. You get into a Marvel movie, which is good because I think the song deserves it. I hope its Spotify numbers go way, way up because it's a great song. I don't know how it did in Canada, but only peaking at 57 in the US. I mean, to me, that should have been a slam dunk hit in 1979. It's not heavy. It's accessible enough. Again, it doesn't sound like Foreigner, but an era where bands like Foreigner and Styx and Journey were really big. There's no reason why Since You've Been Gone, that would sit right side by side along with those types of bands. I can't understand why it wasn't a bigger hit, but it was their first breakthrough in the charts in the States. So I guess there's that. So yeah, that's my number 2.
Yeah, look, my theory, Tim, is maybe Polydor's not the most aggressive label. If they were on Warner's or CBS, which to me are the blue chip record labels, maybe it might have been a bigger hit.
Ended up on Warner because Deep Purple were on Warner over here. So
yeah,
it's kind of interesting they didn't. But maybe at that time, since Purple was still going, maybe Blackmore didn't want to be, competing on the same label with Purple. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe they needed a manager like Peter Grant who just had a baseball bat and started whacking people over the head. All the radio company people.
Reading interviews with like David Coverdale and stuff there, Deep Purple's management was kind of a mess. So,
yeah.
So they.
All right, The Mother Lode. I have to pick it. It's one of the greatest hard rock songs of all time, and it just every time I play it, like when I was coming home from Hawaii on the Spotify, I put on the headphones, and the shivers were coming up my spine. It never ceases to amaze me. This song, Stargazer, off Rising. I just think it's just the perfect crystallization of Ritchie Blackmore and that Egypto chords, mining the Kashmir. And it's a perfect sort of melding of Ronnie's obsession with Dungeons and Dragons and everything mystical, and Ritchie's exploration of that type of neoclassical music. It's just magnificent. And when you hear the start with those Cozzy Powell drum, Cozzy, I mean, there's only a couple of songs on the album, but apparently Cozzy was absolutely knackered at the end of rehearsals and putting this down, because all the way through this album, Cozzy's just going for it. And, A Light in the Black is another honorable mention. Those two songs, if you play one after the other, you've got to give the most valuable player to Cozzy because he's just really going for it. But it's got everything on this song that you would imagine. It's got the string quartet, like the Munich Orchestra or the string quartet. It adds that sort of mystique. It's symphonic, it's grand. And guys, this song was the seed for power metal. So, the genre power metal, I think it all goes back to this album and into that song.
1976, they were on it early.
Yeah, this planted the seed for power metal. It all comes back to this song, Stargazer, my number one.
All right, well, it's kind of fitting, Peter, that we had the same number 10, because we've also got the same number one. So, yeah, Stargazer is number one. It's just too good a song, like, not to have it at number one. It's an amazing song. I'm not normally into these epic, if it goes longer than 4 or 5 minutes, I'm I don't know, but but this is just too good a song, and there's no time wasted. It builds and it goes all over the place, and you never get bored. Like you mentioned, the drums at the start, I love the way that kicks off with those drums. Of course it's Dio. It sounds incredible. The way it finishes is kind of like this orchestra coming in, and then Dio's vocals just kind of fade away. But it's just this is like it's like the 8-minute mark sort of thing. So just an epic song. It's just wow, amazing. So it was straight away like that had to be number one. To be honest, numbers 2 through to 10, you could mix them up a bit. I wouldn't be too upset, but that one's going to be number one. Amazing song. Yeah.
Well, my number one's, if you haven't, if I haven't mentioned it yet, you're probably, why hasn't he mentioned it? Well, I kind of have to. It's the first song I ever heard by Rainbow, Stone Cold. I caught the video, I think in 1987, Much Music, Canada's MTV, did not play a lot of, Deep Purple didn't really have a lot of videos until Perfect Strangers, and they still didn't have a lot. But I did see this video once, and the song just gets in your head. Now, I remember snickering for the first time I heard, You Put Me in the Deep Freeze. And I remember thinking that was so funny because they're in this like freezer type, they're supposed to be like on ice or something. But man, does he ever sing it with conviction. And years later, when I found a cassette of Straight Between the Eyes, it's the first time I'd heard the song all the way through. I'm like, this is a really, really great song. It's the only song that hit the US top 40. It only hit 40. did a little bit better in Canada. I think it peaked at 28. It was a #1 mainstream rock chart song on Billboard. So it would have obviously gotten a lot of radio play. Yeah, I think Bobby Rondinelli's drums are great in it. The way that he'll do the little fill and then hit the bell of his hi-hat. I don't know how he does it. It's like it's really subtle, but it's just what the song needs. I think it's well produced. Love Blackmore solo in it. It's not overly showy, but again, it's just exactly what the song needs. I like how when it gets to the end, it kind of turns into a gallop, where it's kind of going dun 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 dun. Like it just there's so much intensity there. Yeah, I there's no way I could have picked any other song, but Stone Cold. It's kind of neat that Steve and I both had the single. So there you go, folks. That's our top 10 Rainbow songs. I think that we covered a pretty good bunch of ground here, and we have a lot of songs that are in common, but I think each of us had ones that the other didn't. So I think we've got a really, really well balanced list. And again, it's not a huge catalog, so I'm sure that we left out somebody's favorite out there. But that's comment. You know, in the comments, list your top 10. These are just our opinions. So. So I'm going to turn the floor over to these gentlemen. They've each got channels to talk about. If you're not subscribing, then you should be. Peter, what's coming up for you on Rock Daydream Nation that you could divulge?
Well, the latest show I did with you, Tim, which was a great little interview, put you under the spotlight for Unspooled. So please, if you haven't seen the interview, maybe some different questions that you haven't seen on other channels, seeing a different side of Tim. That was a gas. And I've got a show doing with John Clauser and Peter Wicks on Speed Kills, which was a speed metal compilation in the late 80s. So we're putting a focus on possibly the greatest speed metal compilation album of all time and going back in time. So that'll be a little bit of fun, and that'll be dropping soon. So that's on the channel, Rock Daydream Nation.
And Steve, Rock and Metal Invasion, what can folks expect?
Yeah, well, you know, to be honest, I'm not always that organized knowing what's coming up, but just recently I've did an unboxing of the new Van Halen box set, the one with Sammy Hagar. So that's posted on there now. So yeah, so I've been enjoying spinning that, and yeah, just going through some of the records of my collection, and you know, usually what I'll do is I'll find a theme or something that I want to talk about, and yeah, and basically, you know, once or twice a week sort of thing, there'll be something on there. So yeah, check it out if you want to. Rock and Metal Invasion.
I will have the links to both Peter and Steve's channels below. If you're not subscribing already, what are you waiting for? And if you haven't subscribed to Tim's Vinyl Confessions, you've just watched a lot of shows. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, so just hit the button there. Yeah, links to my Unspooled book, as Peter talked about, will be on the bottom as well. And yeah, you know, people that watch my show know I've always got something coming up, a couple episodes a week. So Peter and Steve, thank you very much for coming on here and talking some Rainbow. That was a lot of fun. I've never done a full-on Rainbow themed episode before. So this is a lot of fun to do. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
And we will see you all again on Tim's Vinyl Confessions. See you all later.